Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Happy 2025 to all y'all and you and yours. Believe this is the first live Q&A since the start of the new year. Well, being as it's the 5th, it is. So, I'm not going to say welcome to 2025 because y'all have already been there. And it's not a lot different from 2024, but I think the air smells a little bit sweeter and the advertising has changed. So that's always a good thing. Oh, man. It's been a week. It's been a week of change. It's been a week of new stuff for me. And I'll elaborate on that in a little bit. I'll get into that a little bit deeper here pretty quick. But before I do anything else, I want to say hello to my buddy Steve from Harniel Media. He's out there in the comments. He's my only moderator and just in general, all around good egg. Um, I've mentioned this before. I'm going to continue to mention it until Steve tells me to shut up. Um, Basically, if you're even toying with the idea of a website, you owe it to yourself to go over to harnielmedia.com, click that contact us button, and shoot Steve a message. The reason I so enthusiastically endorse Steve is because, just simply put, he's great at what he does. I mean, he's not going to give you excuses or try to convince you that you can live without something if it's really what you want. Having your own website is freeing, it's liberating, and it puts you in control. You're done with paying commissions to some website that's going to list your items amongst all of your competition, which just ends up being a race to the bottom price wise. Um, you've heard it before that, well, I can get that at the big box store for $30. Well, you're not looking for big box store shoppers. You're looking for people who appreciate your products or appreciate your services. So don't try to compete with the big box store because they're going to win. You can't compete with them. The first step is creating your own web store. Steve will handle that for you. Get your products and services out to the public directly so you're not paying some other company every time you want to just list a product or a service. You're in control. You're in charge. You can adjust pricing as you see fit. You can adjust availability as you see fit. You are in control. And with Steve in your corner, he makes it easy. If you're a veteran with websites and you can handle it all yourself, you just need help on the back end, he's got you covered. If you're like me and have no idea what you're doing with a website, he's got you covered. And every step along the way and every space along that spectrum that you may fall into. He's very, very competitively priced, and it's 100% personalized service. When you deal with Harniel Media, you deal with Steve, and that's it. There is no nameless, faceless person in a call center someplace that you're never going to contact again. You're dealing with Steve. I can't speak highly enough of him. He's good at what he does, and you'll be more than satisfied with the service. So do yourself a favor. Again, there's a link to Harniel Media in every video and every live stream on this channel, and it's that way for a reason. Get over to harnielmedia.com, hit that contact us button, and give Steve a shout. And he's more than happy to work with you. Thank you for everything you do, Steve. I'm proud to call you a friend. I truly, truly, sincerely appreciate you. So let's get into what's been going on here this week. For those of you who are eagle eyed, you can see right there a slight change, a very slight change in my control box. That is because Avid CNC back in August came out with a totally new control system, which means a totally new control box, new control boards, new control everything, and new control software. Oh boy. So it's been a learning curve for me. As we speak right now, the conversion has been made. I have converted over to the Avid EX control system. I am still using the NEMA 34 960 inch ounce motors. But it's gone over to this new control system, and I'm learning the software. And oh boy, it's just new. Let me give you a little idea of what I'm talking about here. This is the Mach 4 screen that I'm used to working with, and it's pretty straightforward. I've got my DROs here for X, Y, Z, and A. All the controls are real visible and self-explanatory. There's where I home my machine. Um, there I can go to my work XY0. Up here is my offsets tab where I go into my G55, G56, G57 work offsets. Out here is a little display of the of the tool path that I have loaded. I can use my auto touch plate right here. I can override feed rate, rapid rate, jog rates, spindle speeds. I can manually turn the spindle on. There's my emergency stop. There is feed hold if I want to pause what's going on for whatever reason. This is what I'm used to working with. The EX control system uses different software. It's called CNC 12, and it is a version of the Centroid Acorn controller and control software. And it's got a whole new interface that I'm still wrapping my head around. This is the Avid CNC 12 profile. And I just need to get used to all of these new controls. Where over here I had my cycle start G code button that was labeled. I now have this button right here that is not labeled. Took me a little bit of figuring out and going through the manuals and everything to figure out what it is, figure out all of this interface. I think it's a little bit more complex than it needs to be. I think a lot of this could be handled in tabs. Right off the bat, there is no preview of what the toolpath, where it's going to go, what it's going to look like. I can go down here into these menus and I can find that, but I kind of like having it straight up on the screen when I load G code. So that's taking a little while to get used to. It's just different buttons, different layouts, and a few other operational things. One of the things that I have discovered is on Mach 4, when you have keyboard jogging turned on, you just simply used like to move my Y. If I want to move my Y back, I would press my cursor up button and that moved the Y back. If I wanted to move it forward, I press cursor down on the keyboard. If I wanted to move the X to the left, I hit cursor left, cursor right to move it over to the right. If I wanted to move my Z up or down, I'd hit page up or page down. Well, it's those same controls in CNC 12, but I have to hold down the control key to activate those buttons. Now, that is a good thing, and I can understand why, because it has happened. You drop something and it hits the if it hits a button, you could jog a axis that you don't want to jog. That's legit. I understand that. But so far I haven't found a way to deactivate needing to hold down control and then press the button, because there are times that I do want to do this one-handed. If I'm holding something over here on the table and I need to hit that button, I can't reach those two buttons at the same time. So it's, one of those, I wish I could do it, but I can't, you know. So maybe I can figure it out. I just haven't figured out yet. Like I say, I'm still very new to this software. I'm still very new to the interface. And I see there's a couple of questions here. Does it have a preview screen for cutting the job as it's being cut, like Mach 3, Mach 4? It does. You have to go into another screen to look at it. I just prefer it being right out here in the open, like I'm used to. I didn't have to change screens. You can go in once the job is loaded and the machine is homed. A couple of other buttons pop up here that use your F4 and your F8 button. But it's just something I'm going to have to get used to. That's all. And again, these are serious first world problems. I mean, serious first world problems. So, I really can't complain. It's just something that I'm going to have to get used to. And this time next year, I'll be sitting here criticizing why I was so, not really, why I was complaining, So I see a couple of other questions here. You're showing an image of the UI. Does the real thing not show tooltips for the buttons? No, it doesn't show tooltips for the buttons. You can look at this right off the bat and you can see that this was created with a touch screen in mind. Okay. Everything here is a fairly large button that is positioned in such a way that it would be very difficult to hit the wrong button. Your reset and emergency stop is way over here away from cycle start. The reset and emergency stop are both red. You can't really miss them. Everything is more or less separated. And while it's not specifically made for touchscreen, it was designed and made with the touchscreen in mind. And in fact, in the user's guide, there's a lot of documentation on using a touchscreen. So let me grab something here real quick because I see another question. And the answer is basically yes. Wendell is asking, come on, get it out. Is there a pendant available? Yes, there is, and I have it here. I don't have it hooked up yet. I still have I still have to go through calibration on the machine. Then I'm going to hook up the pendant, and then we'll be all set. The pendant has some cool things, some cool features to it. The only thing I think I don't like about a pendant, and again, we're talking first world problems here. This is really no complaint, and I'm sure I'll get used to it. But the number one complaint about using a pendant is you can only move one axis at a time. So if I want to move my X and Y at the same time after I'm done homing and I want to move it diagonally, I can't do it with the pendant. So again, first world problems, I'll get over it. But it's just little things like that. So um, still got to get into it and set it up. And once I get it all set up, um, I'll be talking about it. So, yeah, there is a pendant. No, I haven't hooked it up yet. I've still got to calibrate the axes. A little inside baseball. I was going to do that today, but today's grocery shopping day. So we'll be doing that after I get done with this live stream here. Because while I love my CNC and I love my CNC work, I must be fed. So, let's see. Kurt over at Crafty Jans says you still have the physical e-stop button in addition to the screen. Yes, I do. It is right above the control box, right there. The red button sticking out of the yellow housing right there. And it's just become second nature to me to click cycle start and then stand next to that button. Two reasons why it's over there. Number one, I don't accidentally hit it with my hip if it's mounted, let me get out of the way here, right there next to my workstation where I stand. And I'm out of range. I'm over there. The whole front end of the machine is clear. So anything that comes flying off from the front, I'm out of the way. So that's why my e-stop is over there. It's two steps. I click cycle start, I walk over and stand next to that e-stop with my hand on it. Usually I'm over on that e-stop before the bit ever touches the material because there's a dwell with the spindle, allow it to come up to speed and allow my dust collector to come up to speed. So, oh man. So that's going to be the next thing is calibration. And then after that, I'll run my first project. And my first project is going to be something very simple that I'm probably never going to put up anywhere. And then that's about all I'm going to do, then just pick up from where I left off. Let's see here. Alan Williamson says, I would be interested in knowing how you calibrate your machine, even though I haven't got the same machine. I plan on shooting video when I do it, but what I'm going to do, Alan, let me write this down right now, is I'm going to link a video from a gentleman by the name of Jim Neeb over at JN Woodworks. I'll link a video where he goes through the calibration steps that he took on his Avid CNC, and this is a couple years back. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but I am going to shoot a video because I love Jim Neeb. He's a great guy. He is very knowledgeable and he's good at what he does. Believe it or not, though, he is longer of wind than I am. So I'm going to do a video following the same steps, but it's probably going to be about half the length. And Jim, if you watch this video, that's no criticism of you. You do a great job. But Jim likes to get into the technical details that I don't get into because Jim is that guy. He is a serious techie when it comes to CNC routers. And a good percentage of the work he does with CNC routers is trying new things, trying new accessories, and getting into the technical data on it. and he's got the time and he's got the equipment. I don't have half of the test equipment or dial indicators that he has. I mean, will get down into the threads on the nuts and bolts. He doesn't get into the nuts and bolts. He gets into the threads. So, let's see here. Rich Bratcher is asking, is your table made from Bosch Rexroth or 80/20 extrusion? It is 80/20 extrusion. This is the Avid CNC kit with the leg kit and the vertical work holding kit. It's all 80/20 extrusion, and this was shipped from Avid. So, and it is stout. I kind of did Avid a disservice when I first built this and released my build videos because I didn't pay attention to what I was doing. I had a couple of braces that weren't in place yet. But most crucially, I didn't have the bolts torqued tight enough. So it looked like the table was wiggling back and forth when I was running it. And it was. That was no fault of Avid CNC or their leg kit. That was 100% my fault. I didn't go around and tighten up all of the bolts to the 18 to 20 torque foot-pounds they should have been tightened to. I went around and I tightened all that up and got all the angular braces put into place, and this is a tank. Now, if you see any wiggling, it's not the machine, it's actually the floor, because again, this is a wooden shop. My floor is 2x6 studs, 16 inches on center, or 2x6 joists, 16 inches on center, then 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood over the top of that. So any wiggle you see is either in the floor or this camera mount right behind me here. And in fact, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. Kimberly's asking about the cutting board that just got its 4th coat of tung oil. That's it. And while you're taking a look at the cutting board, Kimberly, you can see how easily that camera mount shakes. So any shake you see from the CNC is now due to that. I'll just stomp on the floor. The cutting board is made up of scrap. I didn't buy a single piece of material for this cutting board. It is 15 by 20, made so I can cut a slice of brisket on it. This is going to be my user. Right now I have 4 coats of tung oil on it. I'm going to do a minimum of 1 more, possibly 2. I don't know yet. We'll see how it goes. But there's wood from all over the world on this stuff, and some of it I've been carting around for 20 years, some of it longer. So, for instance, there's pieces of white oak in that cutting board that we got when we were stationed over in Germany. We got there in 88. So, there's the cutting board, Kimberly. So, let's see here. Bob, I got your question earlier. I have it marked. I was going to get to that, but I will answer you right now. And it's going to be kind of another cop out because there's a gentleman here on YouTube and he's very active over on Facebook. His name is Milo Scott. Milo Scott is a G code and rotary axis guru. He is the wizard. I'm here to tell you. He's my Obi-Wan when it comes to the rotary axis and a G code. He's the man to talk to. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel and to his Facebook page down in the description as soon as we're done here. He can tell you exactly how to do that. He can give you all the tips and pointers you need. as far as working with your rotary axis, be it G-code to get it to spin so you can sand, or just do whatever you want to do with that. I mean, the man makes some very intricate spindle carvings with no 3D tool paths, using nothing but a straight fluted cutter and 2D tool paths in about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That would take 6 to 8 hours to carve with a 3D model. The guy is just a genius. He really is. So, yeah, I'll put a link to his YouTube channel and to his Facebook page as soon as we're done live here. Butch Miller, is this a snowball? No, this is not a snowball. This is what about 3 rolls of two-sided tape look like when you just use two-sided tape to peel two-sided tape up off of a spoil board or off of a piece of material. That's what that is. That's double-sided tape. And this thing is a little bit freaky, but it's soft, but it's firm. Could use it as a baseball, but it'd probably stick to the bat. You would ding dong sure catch it, because that's going nowhere. That's 3 rolls of double-sided tape. All I did was the first piece, I was surfacing a bunch of small pieces, and I just rolled up the first piece, then used that to start the second piece, and just kept going, and eventually, I'll be a tourist attraction, the world's biggest double-sided tape ball. My disdain for double-sided tape is well known and public, and I still have a serious disdain for double-sided tape. However, when you have a bunch of small pieces to surface, it's a lot faster than painter's tape and CA glue. But if it's something that really matters, something I'm carving into, or something that I'm cutting out, a profile cut, I use the painter's tape and CA glue. I don't trust double-sided tape. But if I'm just taking 10 or 20 thousandths surfacing off the top, the double-sided tape does work. Probably toxic to handle it like that, by the way. Oh, well. I mean, I figure I'm handling it when I stick it down. I'm handling it when I'm pulling it up. I'm 63 years old. I mean, and I'm fine. Woof, woof. So let's scroll back up here and see what we got. I'd love a white oak and bog oak end grain board one day. Same here, 8th Center. Bog oak is gorgeous stuff, but oh man, is it expensive. So here. What do we got? I think I'm caught up with the questions that came up as I was going. Let's see here. Pete's asking, did you have a bad experience with double-sided tape? I had several. They either held too tightly or they didn't hold good at all. I could never find that happy medium. The last straw was when I was hand routing a headstock for a guitar. And I was coming around about halfway through. I had double-sided taped a template to the headstock that I was carving, and I got about halfway, and the template shifted, and of course I was in motion when it shifted, and it gouged right into the head where I didn't want it to go. And this was like a 4-piece laminate neck with various pretty woods, and oh, I was upset to say the least. And I talked about it in the video I did about 8-9 years ago on the subject. I basically I swore off a double-sided tape for most situations. It still has its place. Oh, wow, Bob Ferguson. Thank you very, very much. I truly appreciate it. Totally unnecessary, but thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. I keep saying I have the best viewers on YouTube, and that right there is proof. Right there is proof. Thank you so much. Ever since then, I've been absolutely convinced that double-sided tape is a tool of the devil. And it does still have its place, but like I say, it just doesn't hold well enough. I've had certain situations where I'm working on something fairly thin, and it'll pull up grain, or it'll trying to get something loose from double-sided tape, it'll break. I've broken several templates. I just don't like it. So I was watching a video by a YouTube by a luthier named Ben Crow over at Crimson Guitars, who is still here on YouTube, and I'll find a link and put it in the description. And he was talking about how it was so hard for them to find strips of sandpaper self-adhesive, because they would take a precision machine leveling beam and then stick down self-adhesive sandpaper strips to that beam and use it for sanding frets, for leveling frets. And one of his apprentices said, well, here's what you do. Take some painter's tape and burnish it down on there, onto that leveling beam. Take another piece and burnish it down onto the back of the sandpaper strip, and then use CA glue and stick it on there. And he's like, that'll never work, until he tried it and was like, son of a gun. Well, that got the gears turning. And I said, well, I wonder if that would work for a CNC. Could I mount it? So I started experimenting it, and I used it for about a year and a half. Never failed me once, so I did a video on it. And that became like my most popular video, until I did 5 things I wish beginning CNCers would stop doing. Then that became my most popular video. But that method, I still use it almost exclusively. It has never failed me, not once. And yeah, I just keep plugging away with it. Having said that, there is still a place for double-sided tape. So what can I say? Let's get to some of these questions and quit yakking here. Let's see here. Darwin VB Adventures of DNL says, hey Mark, a couple weeks ago I bought the 1/2-inch end mill down cut with 2-inch depth of cut. I learned a lot with this bit because I downloaded the file and never checked the settings. Was surprised that it was at 160. I slowed it down to 30 and 7 for pass for 163 thick board. What do you think? Just as a general rule, let me get into my tool database here. We'll bring it up. Just as a general rule, the thing to remember about the tool database files that you find for all of these different bits and what have you is that they are usually made for industrial machines. That's who they supply bits to. Okay. So if we look in the case of my Whiteside RD 5200 down cut end mill, 1/2 inch diameter end mill, the feed rate is 160, the plunge rate is 60, and the pass depth is 1/4 inch. This works for my machine. Your machine may be different. Your machine may be able to handle faster feed rates and a deeper pass depth. Then again, your machine may not be able to handle 160 inches per minute. It may only work at 60 or 80. There are a lot of variables. The rigidity of your machine. Are you using a spindle or a router? Um, I find that at 16,000 RPM, 160 is a good baseline for my machine. I have cut at 250 inches per minute through plywood on this machine with this bit. Generally speaking, I start conservative, and for me, 160 is conservative. But I have a big machine that can handle that. You may not. Also know that it's going to depend on the material, because some material is going to be easier to cut than others. If you're cutting through maple, 160 is a good starting place. If you're cutting through pine, 160 is way too fast. If you're cutting through foam, you may need to go up to like 250 to start. It's just going to depend on any number of variables. So these are always going to be changing. That's why I don't get into the feeds and speeds discussion very much or very often, simply because if I'm cutting hard maple, it's going to be different for walnut, and it's probably going to be different for oak. If I cut something like purple heart, it's going to be different for that too. So a lot of it's going to depend on your machine. A lot of it's going to depend on your material. And okay, you have a spindle. That means that you should be able to control your RPMs. Um, you're going to find that change is going to change as well. I generally speaking with this bit, I keep it at 16,000 RPM, and I adjust my feed rate and plunge rate, and occasionally my pass depth. If it's something like Purple Heart, I'll bring that pass depth up to 1/8 of an inch rather than 1/4 of an inch. You know, and the thing is to watch your chips. Some people look at chip load, and that's good. But I also like to look at what I'm getting as it's cutting. I'll adjust the feed rate on the fly because I can. Now that I'm starting this new control software, I don't know that I can do that. I'm going to find out. But experiment. That this is gets into that test in scrap kind of thing. So, um, and that still stands. I do that all the time. I constantly test in scrap. So, okay, let's see here. Pete over at Nature's Live Edge says, I'm looking for a good bowl bit. Have you seen an advantage to a down shear geometry, looking at the bits and bits and then the part number? I really can't compare, because the bowl bits I have I've got two of them. One's 1.25 inch diameter and one is a 3/4 inch diameter. I have the Whiteside bowl and tray bits, and they are just the straight, flat. I'm using my hands like you can see me. They are just the straight, flat brazed cutter type bits. Let me find one of them. Okay, there's the 1.25 inch diameter. Bring it over so you can see. Come on, get the envelope open, dummy. All right. They are the straight brazed type of cutter. Generally speaking, when I use this bit, I've also already run a clearance pass. I've hogged out what I need to hog out. So when it comes time for this to actually get in and do the work, and for example, let me change my camera here. Kaboom, back over to the cutting board. This juice groove was cut with the 3/4 inch bowl and tray bit, and I used the my 1/2 inch end mill to hog out most of it. And I've got a gorgeous finish down here in this juice groove. Of course, I need to turn it on angle so you can see it. It's a nice finish down in here. I've got no complaints. Any advantages to the down shear? I would imagine that there can be some good advantages. If you're concerned about chip out on the top edge, but again, I did that hog out with the 1/2 inch diameter end mill, and that's a down cut. So, you know, I can envision a need for it, but there's no law that says you can't have both. I guess the one thing I like about these type of bits, and we got into a little bit of the discussion on this on the members only chat on Facebook, is that you can actually touch up these flat carbide cutters with like a diamond hone or even heck, just a nice flat piece of marble or something and some sandpaper stuck to it. You can sharpen these up and touch them up. And I've done that. You can't do that with a spiral bit, but you certainly can with a flat cutter. I've done that on my V bits, and I've done that on other bits with the flat carbide cutter. It does work. So yeah, there's that. So I wouldn't call it an either or situation. If you want it, get it. So okay, Michael says Acorn allows adjustments on the fly as a percentage of the set feeder speed. Okay, yeah, I'm so new to it. Like I said, I just got it configured for the machine yesterday, and you'll notice a new thing over here. And again, I'll talk about this more in future videos. I have a new thing over here is a tool length setter. And basically what you do is you mount your material onto your CNC. You set your Z0, for instance, to the material surface. Then when you hit cycle start, it immediately tells you to go into tool 1. Put in tool number 1, cycle start, it'll come over here and it'll touch off on this plate here, and then adjust your Z0 and then come over and start the job. Then when you get to the point where you need a tool change, it'll park, tell you to go to your next tool, put in your next tool, it comes over here, touches off, and then goes over and continues with the next tool. That's what I got to calibrate, and that's what I got to calibrate the location and the height of that, and it goes by the top of the Z travel. So all of this, the machine has to be honed. it judges where the Z0 on the material surface is compared to the top of my Z travel. Then it judges where that touch plate is compared to the top of the Z travel. So all of that will be featured in future videos. So let's see here now. Excuse me. Okay, Larry Hodge says, I'm very much a newbie and have a VCarve Pro question. I'm trying to make a smoke pipe rack for 6 pipes. What's the best way to do this in VCarve Pro? I have a pic if I can get it to you. I'm talking about the divots the pipe will rest in, kind of like for a deviled egg tray. Okay, that is pretty easy. I'm going to do it in Aspire simply because I have Aspire open right now, but it's identical in VCarve Pro. Okay, it works exactly the same way. So let's say let's see, make sure, yes, I'm on full screen so that you can see this whole thing. I don't know how many pipes you plan on putting in the rack, but let's just go with a single one here for right now. I want to start with an ellipse, okay? And I'm going to put my ellipse right here, and I'm just going to draw it. And it doesn't matter how big it is. But now I want to come in here and I want to size it. You mentioned deviled eggs. I don't know what size you need for your pipe rack, but for deviled eggs, I know I want 2.5 inches to be my width, and I want 1.5 inches to be my height. Then I'll click apply, and that's going to size it. That's the vector that I'm going to use. Now in VCarve Pro, we'll come down to the clip art. Go into clip art, and I'm going to go to domes and dishes. And I'm going to choose a 45-degree dome. Okay. And go back over to my design tab. Now, immediately what I want to do, I shouldn't have gone to my design tab. I need to go into my component tab, because what I need to do is right click on that dome dish and change my combine mode to subtract. That makes it a dish rather than a dome. Now, I want to come to the design tab and I want to resize it. I want to turn off link XY because I want a custom size. And I want to turn off auto scale Z because I want to adjust my Z height manually. I want to make my width 2.5 inches, 2.5. And I want to make the height 1.5 inches, 1.5. And I'll click apply. And I now have my model, my shape. Now I'm going to select the model, hold down shift, and select the vector. I want to do them in that order. Hold down, select the thing I want to align, then select the thing I want to align it to. Go into alignment, and right here, I want to align the selected object to the last item in the selected. And I want to center it. And I'll click that, and it puts that model right inside that vector. Close. Now I'm going to split my 3D view this way, and there is my cup. But now I need to adjust the Z height, simply because this could be 2 inches deep, and I don't want that. I want it, let's say, a 1/2 inch deep. I'll go into components, select the dish, right click, go to properties, and yeah, it's a little more than, it's a little way too thick. I want it to be 0.5 deep. Let that catch up, close, and there we go. There's the indent. Now, yes, I did do this in Aspire, but it's identical in VCarve Pro. Now, if let's say I want 6 of these, I'll select both of those, the model and the vector, and I'm going to do a linear array. I want 1 row in Y, and I want 6 in X. And I think I can get away with a gap of, I think I can get away with a gap of a 1/2 inch. Let's find out. And now I'll copy them. Why didn't we copy? There it is. Oops, I went back. I went the wrong way. I went with 6 and X. Uh-oh, Control Z. We're going to go 6 and 1. I went the wrong way. Oopsie. Now let's try it. Copy. It'll take it a minute because it's creating 6 models, and I went backwards. That's all right. Close. Drag them down. And it turns out I can just barely get 6 here on that sheet. Now, as Kimberly alluded, after I got all of them placed where I want to place them, I'll create a 0 plane. Now, in VCarve, you only have to click this icon. In Aspire, I have to shift click it. Otherwise, it's going to create a shape, and I don't want to do that. The reason for that 0 plane is it will get in here and fill in any gaps where the model ends and the surface of the material starts. So now there are the indents for the pipes or the deviled eggs or whatever you want to make. But they're all in the correct location. They're all the correct depth. They're all identical. They're all lined up. Now, the last thing, and this is one of the most overlooked things I think most people run into, is in material setup. Because you have your model created, you have it placed in X and Y. Now you have to place it within your material. Are we starting at the surface, or are we starting from, oops, wrong button, the bottom of the material? So we'll go into material setup, and we see right now, here's the position of the model. There's no gap above the model. The model thickness is this light color. This dark color down here is any material below the model. So we see right here, the gap beneath the model is 1/4 of an inch, and that's fine. Meaning there's 1/4 inch of material right here that is not illustrated because it's not a part of the model. That's another point to be made. Once you add a 0 plane, it becomes a part of the model. These aren't the only pieces of the model. Now the entire surface is. So, cancel that. That was okay. I didn't need to make any modifications. When I go to do my finishing toolpath, or even my roughing toolpath, and I need to select my machine limit boundary, if I select model boundary, the entire surface of my piece of material is that model. So if I select model boundary, it's going to calculate this flat area out here, and it's going to try to carve it. You may not want that. So what you would do is you would to me personally, I would go with selected vectors. Then all I need to do is either select each of these vectors out here, meaning it will only machine these areas here. It won't machine anything out here, even though that's part of the model. Or, because I know this is on layer 1, I could come down here and use my vector selector and associate layer 1 with this toolpath. I'm not going to do that now because this is the easiest way. Just select the vectors, calculate the toolpath, and that's all it's going to cut. So, the long answer to the short question, that's how you do that. Would you want to tilt fade the dishes to have the pipes lean back? You could. That's entirely up to you, but that's getting into a little bit more than what we would want to get into right here. You can tilt or fade these dishes. Let's close that, slide over here, and I'll go back to a full-size 2D view. There we go. But that would probably be better served being done before you add the zero plane and before you do the linear array. But just know that you go into your component tab, there would only be one. There could only be one. Go into properties, and there is your tilt and fade. You can do that. I would do that before doing the linear array. That way they're all the same. But the clip art here is a great resource for the VCarve Pro users because they know that you can't create your own 3D model, but you can resize and reshape some of these 3D models here. And you have your domes and dishes. You also have 3D tabs, and these can be used for various components. They can be turned into handles, dowels, whatever. And there are various shapes. You have round, pyramid shapes, rectangular, truncated pyramids. I mean, all kinds of different shapes that you can get in and play with. And these can be resized, although they can't really be edited. But I use the domes and dishes a lot, really a lot. So 8 Center says you can still make your own STL files and import them, which is quite easy with certain shapes more than others. Yes, if you have another 3D modeling program, you certainly can make an STL file, then import it into VCarve. So, yes, very much so. But the point is that you cannot make your own 3D model in VCarve. So. John says, shouldn't really need a tilt or fade because the pockets are curved dishes and most pipes are curved top to bottom. That is true. And unless you're talking about something like a corn cob where it's pretty straight sides. But yes, I think leaving it be would actually be the way to go. That way, it doesn't matter what the shape of the actual pipe is. You could do it. You could just drop them in. I think the hard part would be actually sizing more than anything else. But that's just me. I mean, I could be wrong and probably am. I'm not a pipe smoker. So I don't know what's the norm and what isn't. So what's the difference between tilt and fade? Let me go back over here and we're going to go up help. We're going to go to help contents. And of course, it opens up a browser page over here. And we're going to search for tilt. Editing in the 3D view. Tilt and fade. Well, basically, the difference is tilt. Tilt lifts the end, the non-anchored end, lifts it up in relation to the surface. Fade presses it down in relation to the surface. There's a little more to it than that, but that's a basic. Tilt lifts it up from the surface. Fade presses it down. That's there is a little more to it than that, but that's the basic difference. And people have told me, no, it can't be that. It can't be that. And that's why I was just looking for the verbatim from the help file. I have found it in the help file, and that's what it says the difference is. So, sorry, dry throat. Hashtag not sponsored. Let's see here. Larry, I hope that answered your question. Okay. Maurice over at Erickson Design, Design and Woodworking says, you mentioned a couple weeks ago some future V-carve inlay walkthroughs and live Q&A topics. What's the timeline over the next couple of months? Is it on the docket? It is on the docket, and it is on the schedule. This new controller has shifted everything back. So what I had planned to do was some inlay testing. That's now put on hold. Sorry, you know who you are. That's kind of gotten shifted back until I get this controller, until I get my head wrapped around this new controller system. I'm going to be doing inlay testing and then do a video on inlays. One of the software tutorials I'm going to do, especially with the new version 12, is I'm going to be doing a video on importing SKP files from SketchUp into VCarve and Aspire. I've got a couple more things I need to do on that score, but that video is in the works now. How to draw up and this is especially true when it comes to furniture. I still use SketchUp, the SketchUp Make 2017. I use it to draw up furniture and then import vectors from that straight into VCarve or Aspire, and then use that to cut them out. I'm going to be using one of the models I made. It's a SketchUp model from back in, I want to say 2004, 5 or 6, something like that. It's a Gustav Stickley design, and I'm going to show how to import that and then put each piece on a separate sheet for people who have smaller CNCs, or how to nest that into a half sheet of plywood for people who have larger CNCs like mine. So it's pretty basic and it's very simple. It's just a lot of paying attention and attention to detail. I will say right now that I will not be doing any tutorials on how to use SketchUp. Still, by far, and I'm writing it down, Still by far the absolute best video series I've ever seen on how to use SketchUp was done by Jay Bates several years ago. Interfaces have changed. The look of SketchUp may have changed, but everything that Jay put into those videos is right on the money. It's dynamite. He still uses it daily, and it really, really works well. So I will link, I believe he has a playlist on his channel. I will find it and link it in the description of this video as soon as we're live, as soon as we're done live. So that's Milo Scott, Jim Neeb, Crimson Guitars, and Jay Bates. I'll be linking in the video description as soon as we're done here. John Thompson says tilt and fade are used a lot in 3D modeling to put one model behind another model so parts don't protrude through the top model. Yes. Kimberly says, so SV Car Pro users are not likely to use tilt and fade, John? No, that's not the case at all. You might use them. You might not use them. It's just simply a way to put more control into how that model sits. And I'll just bring it back up here. More to the point, for instance, we'll go into 3D. Whoops, no. I'll split my 2D and 3D view here. Let's say I want to, I'm going to use tilt and fade on this one here because it's on the bottom. It's easy to zoom into and it's easy to spot. Get back over here. All right, I've got it selected. I'll go into my component tree and close. Let's see, I've got, okay, that is the right one. So I'll right click that one, go into properties. Now I'm going to fade, which is moving down. Now, as Brooks Martin said a minute ago, if we look over here, fading is done in percentages. Tilting is done in degrees. Okay. So I have checked fade. Now I'm going to click set. And I'm going to come out here to my 3D view, and you see how my cursor just changed to an anchor. And it's got the number 1. The anchor is going to be the anchor point. And I'm going to put that little plus sign right over the center edge of that egg cup, and I'm going to click it. Then I'm going to come over to the other end, and you'll see my cursor now has that red line attached to it, and I've got the number 2. I'm going to go to my second point. So I want to tilt it this way or fade it this way. And I'll click. Now my fade is set at 50%. I want to click and watch my 3D view. If I bring it way up, let's say to 100%, and let it go. If I look, you can just barely see this tip is kind of above the model. And let me go back up to the top. If I bring my, I'll go ahead and maximize the 3D view. If I bring my cursor over here and look at my readouts down here in this quarter, if I go right here, I'm at not even half a thou deep. And I come out here to the center, I'm 0.2496 deep. It's slowly sloping down. If I move back this way, it's slowly sloping up. Now, if I compare that to this model, down here, I'm almost a ½ inch deep. Where down here, I'm about a 1/4 inch deep. Okay. And it's an even balance. Here, I've taken that entire dish shape and I've done that with it. So I got it backwards. Fade is lifting up. Okay. Now and if I look at my 2D view, you can see what it's done to the model here. This is now the deepest point, and we gradually work our way shallower. Okay. Yeah. Maurice, pretty cool swimming pool slant. Yeah, but pretty much so. You know, so we'll go back into the 3D view. I've unchecked that and got rid of that fade. Now let's tilt it. So bring it in here so it's closer to the center again. We'll click tilt. Then I'm going to click set. And again, I've got the anchor. So it needs to know the end I'm going to tilt from. And I'll click this edge of the model. Now 8 center says, does holding down shift keep the line parallel? Let's find out. Hold down shift, and no, it does not. I can go anywhere. And I'll just go to the center of this edge over here, click, and now it's applied that tilt. But I've got it set to 0 degrees, so there is no tilt. Let's go with, we'll click it and we'll just go halfway. See what it's doing? Tilting, it's tilting it down. This end is anchored. Oops, there we go. I'm only at 7.8 degrees. If I go 12 degrees, I have tilted this edge down. Okay. So we can see what we've got here. I start out at 0.0494 and I go way down. My center is closer to 0.7, 0.67. And now I'm coming back up. 676, 672, coming back up. So you can really see on this edge view here, it really dropped it down. See how that goes? This is still up here close to the top, and this is way down. So that's what tilt and fade do. Now, if you wanted to do something like this on a pipe rack, I would suggest experiment. This was not meant to be a tutorial on how to use tilt and fade. It was more or less just to kind of show the difference between the two. So I got it backwards. Tilt pushes down from the anchor point. Fade lifts up from the anchor point. Tilt uses degrees. Fade uses percentage. What happens if you tilt by 45 degrees with it shortened in the horizontal length? I don't know. Get in and experiment with it. Can you add an additional vertical tilt? I don't know. Get in and experiment with it. I mean, this was never meant to be a tutorial on how to use this, how to use tilt and fade. You know, it's basically what you, if you're thinking you can flip it and model from the edge, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that you could actually do that. Again, this is not parametric modeling. This is, and it's not NURBS-based modeling or triangle mesh-based modeling. This is bitmap-based modeling. So it will not create an undercut, if that's what you're wondering. And dealing with vertical surfaces, it will do it, but it's difficult. The icons near the fade and tilt seem to imply that the tilt actually rotates the model, while fade only changes the depth or vertical size of the model. Yeah, there is some of that. There is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. So, all right, let's see. I think that was it. Don't worry about it. Ellen made me do it. Yeah, right. She held the thing to your head and just forced you. Now, don't worry about it. Rabbit holes are Rabbit holes are how I figure out ideas and find out what you guys want to see. Because again, this has never been about me. It's always been about you. So, it's what you want to see. What I need to do, and I will, in fact, it is on the list to do a video on the difference between tilt and fade, all encompassing. The thing about it is the documentation only goes so far, the tutorials only go so far. And even the people that work at Vectric will tell you they are forever, perpetually surprised at what people come up with and what people do. Um, Channel member and friend Mike Bernasconi, when he went to the Vectric user group meeting down in Austin, he had some pictures to show the folks at Vectric. And Edward, who I believe is the CEO, I may be wrong, looked at it and he said, you didn't do that on our software. And he said, oh, yes, I did. And here's how. And showed him. And they're like, they are perpetually surprised at what people have figured out that software can do. Nobody knows everything. So even the people that make the software don't know everything that it's capable of, because unless you've tried to do it, how do you know? So push the envelope. Uh, you know, get into it. Yes, they do. And if you subscribe to their channel, you'll find their spoon videos. Another inside joke. There is a spoon. It's the cake that's the lie. If you know, you know. All righty. Let's see. Butch Miller says that's part of what makes this so valuable. So many extremely talented people. Absolutely. And I submit as evidence the names that the people that I'm going to be linking in the comments, or not in the comments, that I'm going to be linking in the description as soon as we're done live here. Let me ask you, because I just said something that made me rethink. Let me ask you, the viewers, are you more likely to look at a pinned comment or go back and look in the description? I ask that because I can do either or both. I can either put these links in a pinned comment, so it'll always stay up at the top in the comment section, or I can put it in the description, which can get lost if you don't click on that little more and look at the description. Kimberly Went, you are an angel. Thank you so very much. Totally unnecessary, but I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. Okay, well, so far it's unanimous. 1, 2, 3 have said a pinned comment, and Todd is the only naysayer. I agree. Chats have too much BS in them. I wouldn't put it in the chat. I would put it in the comments. And the comments, if it's pinned, it stays up at the top. So a pinned comment is the first comment down in the comment section. And I can pin it so it stays at the top. I'll do both and just experiment. I'll just experiment. Kimberly says, I will go with the majority as I don't understand the issue. The issue is not really an issue, but it can be for the content creator. When you look at a YouTube video, like the YouTube video you're watching right now, if you look beneath the video panel past where it says subscribe and all that other stuff, you'll see where there's a description and it starts talking about what this video is about. Like on this one, I don't remember exactly what I typed. In this video, this is a live Q&A where I'll be answering your, and then it'll say more. Well, that word more is actually a link. You click that word more and it opens up a description. I think it's right around 4,000 words or 4,000 characters. I don't remember how many words it is. And that's where I link a whole bunch of stuff. I've linked the Vectric forum there. I've linked Michael Mazalek's YouTube channel. I've linked Lainey Shaughnessy, Peter Pasuelo. I've linked a bunch of people down there. I've linked Harneal Media. Uh, and I've linked a bunch of playlists. My CNC for the absolute beginners, my Vectric for the absolute beginners, my version 12 for the absolute beginner series. I've linked a whole bunch of different playlists and a bunch of other various things down there where you can get my merch, where you can get or you can sign up for StreamYard and do streams like this as well. All this stuff is down in the description. A lot of people never check the description. They don't click that little more. So it's frustrating on this side because I can't force you to do it. All I can just say is links are in the description. But if you don't know what that is, you don't know what that is. So I'm just wondering if by putting these links in a pinned comment, and I think I will, 8 Center, I think I will put them in both. And go for the gusto. So I'll pin a comment with all these links. Milo Scott for G-code and rotary axis. Jim Neeb for calibration and all things CNC. They're just cool. Crimson Custom Guitars for luthier content and awesome guitar builds. And Jay Bates for SketchUp tutorials. And I will try to find the specific playlist, but if I can't find it, I'll just link his channel and then you can go back. But just know you'll have to go back quite a ways. All right. So what are we going to do next week? Hopefully, I'll have a video out about the controller system. Who knows? I can't promise. 8 Center, you can't post links in the chat. You'll see it, but nobody else will. You have to be a moderator or administrator of my channel to post links. So you're the only one who sees it. None of us do. I'll go back and I'll find it. But I appreciate you doing the search for me. Now I know there is a playlist. I'll link the playlist. I appreciate it. No need to be sorry. I appreciate you. I appreciate the effort. There's no need to apologize. Hopefully I'll have a video out. I might not. I don't know. I shot video of me doing the alteration, but to be honest with you, it took about a half hour to do. And 99.999% of it is so machine specific. It's not the software side, the configuration and all that is not going to be of any use to anybody except someone who has this exact machine and that exact rotary axis and my exact dust collector and the relay system and all that other stuff. So I don't know if it's actually going to be worth it or not. Pete, yes, I did get a pendant. I showed it off a minute ago. I have not hooked it up yet. I need to. It's a little wireless pendant, but I'm going to get that set up after I get everything calibrated. And that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. For right now, I need to get my rear ending gear because today is grocery shopping day on the Mickey Mouse Club. And as I said before, I love my CNC stuff, but I must be fed. Channel members, tomorrow, Michael Bernasconi is going to be doing another presentation on his process for AI images, creating laser files, and 3D models using ImageR, DepthR, a couple of other programs. This is going to be fun. If you've not seen any of Michael's work over on Facebook or in the members only section of the website, you're really missing out. But that's tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Again, Michael Bernasconi on AI images to laser and 3D carvings. Check the community tab for the links. I know they're there. I put them there yesterday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you want information about how to become a channel member, right below this video panel, you'll see the word join. Click on that word join. Another panel will pop up and a video is going to play, tell you all about channel membership. We've got a great group of people. We'd love to have you join. We'll teach you the secret handshake and hook you up with the super secret private Facebook group and super secret private live chat that gets rather lively. So we'd love to have you aboard. I'm going through the Rolodex in my brain right now, and I think that covers everything, but we'll find out next week. Until that time, I hope everybody had a great New Year celebration and are ready to get into the Valentine's Day and Easter madness. With Easter right around the corner, I see why everybody is so hot and heavy on deviled eggs trays right now. Not a bad idea. But for now, go do something cool. Go make chips. Go grocery shopping. Go put something on the smoke. Nah, weather's too nasty to put something on the smoker. Just chill out. I mean, we just did the Christmas rush. Let's relax. Have a good time. Y'all take care. Thank you, and I will see you all next week.